Catherine O'Hara wasn't just a Canadian icon. She was a once-in-a-generation force whose work shaped comedy, film, and television across 5 decades. Her death on January the 30th, 2026, at the age of 71, following a brief illness, has been confirmed by her manager and widely reported across major outlets. Let's take a look at the life and times of Catherine O'Hara, shall we? Catherine O'Hara was born on March the 4th, 1954, in the city of Toronto, Ontario, in Canada. She had a large Irish-Canadian family that shaped her sense of humor long before she ever stepped onto a stage. Catherine was one of 7 children, raised in a home filled with noise, personality, and the kind of everyday chaos that quietly trains a performer to observe, mimic, and transform the world around them. She would become a comedic icon. Her sister, Mary Margaret O'Hara, would later become a singer known for her unconventional, haunting vocal style, but Catherine's path was already forming in a different direction. She had a natural instinct for character, timing, and the subtle exaggerations that make ordinary people unforgettable. Growing up in Toronto in the 1960s and early 1970s, Catherine didn't imagine herself as a Hollywood star. Her world was local, grounded, and shaped by the city's creative undercurrent. She attended Burnhamthorpe Collegiate Institute, where she began to explore performance more seriously. But her true turning point came when she stepped into the orbit of Second City Toronto, an old converted firehouse and legendary comedy institution that had already launched the careers of some of Canada's most influential comedic voices. Catherine didn't begin at Second City as a performer. She started behind the scenes, working as a server in the theater. But talent like hers doesn't stay hidden for long. She watched the performers, studied the rhythms of improv, absorbed the structure of sketches, and eventually stepped onto the stage herself. Once she did, it was obvious to everyone around her that she had something rare. Her characters were sharp, fearless, and layered with emotional truth beneath the comedy. She could shift from absurdity to sincerity in a single breath, and audiences felt that spark immediately. Her work at Second City led directly to her breakout on SCTV, the groundbreaking sketch comedy series that became a cultural force in Canada and beyond. On SCTV, Catherine didn't just perform, she created. She built characters from scratch, each one distinct, each one memorable, each one shaped by her uncanny ability to blend satire with humanity. Her impressions, her original characters, her comedic timing, all of it set her apart. She became one of the show's defining voices, and her work there laid the foundation for everything that followed. By the early 1980s, Catherine O'Hara had already established herself as a major comedic talent in Canada. Hollywood took notice. Her transition into film was seamless because she brought something that directors and writers craved: unpredictability paired with emotional grounding. She could make a scene funnier, stranger, or more heartfelt simply by stepping into it. Her first major global breakthrough came with Tim Burton's 1988 classic Beetlejuice, where she played Delia Dietz, the eccentric, self-absorbed artist whose dramatic flair became one of the film's most iconic elements. Catherine didn't just play Delia, she reinvented her. She infused the character with a blend of satire and sincerity that made her both ridiculous and strangely relatable. Just 2 years later, she stepped into the role that would make her a household name around the world: Kate McAllister in Home Alone. As the frantic, guilt-stricken mother desperately trying to return to her son, Catherine delivered a performance that balanced comedy with genuine emotional weight. Audiences connected with her instantly. Home Alone became a global phenomenon, and Catherine returned for the sequel, Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, solidifying her place in cinematic history. Across her career, the films she appeared in would collectively gross more than $4.3 billion worldwide. But Catherine wasn't content to be defined by a single genre or a single type of role. She became a key member of Christopher Guest's ensemble cast, appearing in Waiting for Guffman, Best in Show, A Mighty Wind, and other mockumentary-style films that relied heavily on improvisation. These films showcased her brilliance in a different way: her ability to build characters from the inside out, to improvise entire emotional arcs, and to create comedy that felt spontaneous and deeply human. Her voice work expanded her reach even further. In The Nightmare Before Christmas, she voiced multiple characters, demonstrating once again that her range was far broader than most performers ever achieve. Whether on screen or behind a microphone, Catherine O'Hara brought a distinct energy that audiences recognized instantly. Despite her growing fame, Catherine lived a grounded personal life. In 1992, she married production designer Bo Welch, a creative partner who understood her world without being consumed by it. Together, they raised 2 sons, maintaining a private family life that stood in contrast to the intensity of Hollywood. Catherine remained connected to Toronto throughout her life, returning often and maintaining strong ties to the city where her career began. One of the most remarkable aspects of her career is the absence of scandal. In an industry often marked by controversy, she maintained a reputation for professionalism, kindness, and integrity. There were no public feuds, no tabloid storms, no personal dramas splashed across headlines. Her legacy remained clean, respected, and admired, a rarity in entertainment. Her late career renaissance came with the role of Moira Rose on Schitt's Creek, a character so bold, so theatrical, and so original that she became a cultural phenomenon. Catherine crafted Moira with meticulous detail, from her unusual vocabulary to her emotional vulnerability. The role earned her 2 Primetime Emmy Awards, a Golden Globe Award, 2 Screen Actors Guild Awards, and in 2017, she was appointed to the Order of Canada, one of the nation's highest civilian honors. It doesn't end there. She was also inducted into Canada's Walk of Fame in 2007. Her star is located in Toronto, honoring her legacy as one of the country's most influential performers. And in the final chapter of her life, her death on January 30th, 2026, at the age of 71, came as a shock to fans around the world. She passed away at her home in Los Angeles, following what was described only as a brief illness. No further details were released, and her family's privacy was respected. Tributes poured in from colleagues, fans, and the entertainment industry, honoring a woman whose work had shaped generations. Catherine O'Hara's legacy is defined not only by the characters she created, but by the standard she set for what comedy could be. She proved the humor didn't have to be loud to be powerful, that the funniest moments often came from honesty rather than exaggeration, and that the most memorable performances were the ones rooted in empathy. Her work showed that comedy and vulnerability were not opposites, they were partners, and she carried that philosophy through every era of her career. Across 5 decades, she built a body of work that spanned sketch comedy, film, television, animation, and improvisational ensemble pieces. Few performers moved so fluidly between mediums. Fewer still managed to reinvent themselves multiple times without losing the core of what made them special. Catherine did it with ease. She could be absurd, grounded, theatrical, subtle, chaotic, or heartbreakingly sincere, sometimes all in the same scene. Directors trusted her. Writers admired her. Fellow actors relied on her. And audiences felt like they knew her, even when she was playing the most eccentric characters imaginable. Her influence extended far beyond her own performances. Younger comedians often pointed to her as proof that character work could be both strange and deeply human. Writers referenced her as someone who elevated material simply by understanding its emotional center, and improvisers studied her timing, her restraint, and her ability to commit fully to a moment without ever losing control of it. She became a blueprint, not just for how to be funny, but for how to build a career defined by integrity, curiosity, and craft. Catherine's impact on Canadian culture is impossible to overstate. She was part of a generation that helped define modern Canadian comedy, shaping the tone and identity of the country's entertainment landscape. Her work on SCTV became a cornerstone of Canadian television history, influencing everything that followed. Her international success brought global attention to the talent emerging from Toronto's creative scene, and her continued connection to Canada, through her honors, her collaborations, and her personal ties, made her a figure of national pride. She wasn't just a Canadian actor who made it big. She was a Canadian artist who carried her roots with her everywhere she went. Her later career resurgence with Schitt's Creek introduced her to an entirely new generation. Moira Rose became a cultural phenomenon, a character studied, quoted, memed, and adored. But what made the role extraordinary wasn't the wigs or the vocabulary. It was the emotional depth Catherine brought to a character who could have easily been a caricature. She gave Moira dignity, fragility, and a strange, earnest warmth. It was a reminder that Catherine O'Hara never played for laughs alone. She played for truth. In her personal life, Catherine was known for her privacy, her loyalty, and her grounded nature. She avoided the chaos of celebrity culture, choosing instead to focus on her work, her family, and the people she cared about. Colleagues often described her as generous, collaborative, and quietly brilliant, someone who made every room better simply by being in it. She didn't chase attention. She didn't manufacture drama. She let the work speak for itself, and it spoke loudly. When news of her death broke in January 2026, the reaction was immediate and heartfelt. Tributes came from every corner of the entertainment world: comedians, actors, directors, musicians, writers, and fans who had grown up with her work. They shared stories of how she inspired them, how she shaped their sense of humor, how she made them feel seen. Clips of her performances flooded social media, not out of nostalgia, but out of gratitude. People wanted to celebrate her, to honor her, to acknowledge the joy she brought into their lives. Catherine O'Hara's legacy is not defined by a single role, a single era, or a single achievement. It is defined by the totality of her work, the characters she created, the world she helped build, the artists she influenced, and the audiences she touched. She leaves behind a career that will be studied, admired, and cherished for generations. Her performances will continue to make people laugh, cry, and feel connected to something larger than themselves. And in the end, that is the mark of a true artist, to leave behind work that continues to live long after they are gone. Catherine O'Hara did that. She earned her place in the history of comedy, in the history of film and television, and in the hearts of millions. Her legacy is secure, her impact is permanent, and her voice, strange, brilliant, fearless, unmistakable, will echo for decades to come. In the end, Catherine O'Hara left us with a simple truth: great art lives on. And through every character, every laugh, and every moment she gave the world, she still does. Rest in paradise, Catherine O'Hara. If you enjoyed this tribute, please throw me a thumb. If you want to see more tributes, please consider subscribing. Thank you for watching. I hope to see y'all in the next one.